In the serene halls of Kensington Palace, the air was thick with tension. A single misstep could unravel decades of royal protocol, and tonight, that misstep was about to occur. Prince William, known for his steadfast dedication to his family, walked to the grand corridor, his mind clouded with a rare storm of emotion. Camilla's son, a figure off in the background of royal gatherings, lingered near the youngest princess. Charlotte, bright-eyed and full of life, laughed softly, unaware of the eyes watching her every movement. But one glance from the palace guard changed everything. The guard, ever vigilant, saw a moment that would ignite a royal confrontation. A hand, too familiar, reached for Charlotte's arm. In that instant, the tension crystallized. William, protective and unwavering, moved with decisive authority. There was no hesitation. A single command, a firm gesture in the palace, usually a place of decorum and civility, held its collective breath. The confrontation that followed was swift, unspoken, yet profoundly loud in its implications. Boundaries had been tested, loyalties questioned, and in that quiet, golden-lit hall, a message was sent. A message that the protection of family comes before all else, even the unspoken rules of royal protocol. Word of the incident would ripple outward, echoing through tabloids and whispers alike. But within the walls of Kensington, the message was clear. No one threatened Charlotte under William's watch. The palace never sleeps, but that night, even its walls seemed to hold their breath. Word of the confrontation had already reached the inner circle. Whispers in the corridors grew louder, carrying tension like a silent storm. Camilla's son, usually confident in the background of royal life, now felt the weight of eyes upon him. Each gaze sharp with judgment. Prince William, calm but firm, retreated to his private study. His mind replayed the moment over and over. The hand on Charlotte's arm, the instinctive anger, the need to protect. As a father, there was no room for doubt. Yet as a royal, the consequences of any action were magnified, scrutinized by the world. Every move would be dissected, every decision questioned. Meanwhile, Camilla's son paced the palace hallways, unaware that the palace staff and the security team had already shared their accounts. His usual ease vanished. The unseen tension of royal protocol pressed on him like chains. He realized, perhaps too late, that crossing the invisible boundary around William's family carried risks he had never considered. Outside the palace gates, reporters and photographers began to stir, sensing a story. The incident, minor to some, promised headlines that could shake the royal image. But within, the lesson was clear. Respect a young princess, or face consequences that even privilege cannot shield you from. The night stretched on, each ticking second amplifying the gravity of the event. And as the palace slowly drifted toward dawn, one truth remained undeniable. Prince William's commitment to his children was unyielding, and his warning, though silent, resonated louder than any proclamation. By morning, the palace was a hive of quiet unease. Servants moved with cautious glances. Staff whispered behind closed doors, and the royal guard kept a watchful eye on every movement. Word of the previous night's incident had begun to spread beyond Kensington's gilded walls. Though officially unspoken, rumors carried weight in royal circles. Weight that could topple reputations and strain alliances. Camilla's son, once confident and assured, now felt the walls closing in. Every glance from William's aides, every polite nod from household staff, seemed to carry a subtle reprimand. Privilege could no longer shield him from the consequences of a misjudged action. The palace, a symbol of order and tradition, now mirrored the tension in his mind. Prince William, however, remained composed. His focus was Charlotte. He spent the morning in quiet reflection, replaying the scene, ensuring that his actions had been firm but measured. Protecting a child was instinct, yes, but as a royal, every action was scrutinized, every gesture analyzed. He understood the delicate balance, love and authority, discipline and diplomacy. Outside the palace, whispers turned to murmurs. Journalists speculated, tabloids hinted, and social media erupted with conjecture. Yet inside, William's silent warning echoed. Family comes first. Protocol can bend, rumors may swirl, but the safety of his children was absolute. The day wore on, tension simmering beneath the surface. Every movement, every glance, seemed charged with anticipation. A single spark could ignite confrontation. In the world of royalty, even a small spark could become a blaze that no one could ignore. Evening fell over Kensington Palace, casting long shadows through the ornate halls. The tension from earlier in the day lingered like an unspoken storm. Camilla's son moved cautiously, aware that every step, every gesture, was being observed. He could feel the weight of William's disapproval, without a word being spoken, a silent judgment that demanded acknowledgement. Prince William remained steadfast. He had made his position clear. Charlotte's safety was non-negotiable. Yet he understood the subtleties of royal diplomacy. A public confrontation could ignite scandal, but quiet assertion of authority could send a message stronger than any headline. And so he watched, patient, firm, ready to intervene again if necessary. In a private corridor, the two men crossed paths. Neither spoke, yet the tension between them was palpable. Eyes locked, a silent understanding passing through the air. Boundaries had been tested, and the consequences were real. Camilla's son understood, perhaps for the first time, that privilege could not shield him from William's protective instinct. Elsewhere in the palace, staff whispered in hushed tones. They spoke of loyalty, of family, and of the unyielding strength of a father's love. Every footstep, every glance, seemed to carry the weight of the royal household's silent scrutiny. The incident had shifted dynamics, subtle but profound, leaving an unmistakable mark on the day's quiet rhythm. As night deepened, Prince William returned to Charlotte's side, his presence a shield and a statement. The message was simple yet powerful. The safety and well-being of his children came before all else. And in that quiet assertion, the palace felt a ripple of authority, a reminder that some boundaries were never to be crossed. The palace walls, usually a refuge of tradition and discretion, could not contain the echoes of the evening's events. Rumors, subtle at first, began to seep through corridors and gardens, carried by staff and servants whose loyalty was tested by silence. The story of Camilla's son's misstep and William's unwavering response spread like an undercurrent. Quiet, yet impossible to ignore. Outside, the media caught wind. Headlines began forming, each more sensational than the last. The public, always intrigued by the intimate dramas of royalty, speculated and debated. Yet inside Kensington, the reality was far more personal, far more immediate. For William, the concern was not public perception, but the private safety of his family. Charlotte, unaware of the growing storm, played nearby, her laughter a reminder of innocence threatened by carelessness. Camilla's son, now fully aware of the consequences, felt a shift in his status. Where once he had moved to the palace with ease, he now felt a subtle distance, a quiet warning in every interaction. Even those who once supported him hesitated, uncertain where loyalty should lie. William's resolve, however, remained unshaken. Every action, every decision, sent a clear signal. The royal family's boundaries were not negotiable. His authority, calm yet firm, reinforced a timeless lesson. Protection of loved ones transcends protocol, rumor, and privilege. And as the night deepened, the palace settled into a tense quiet, the air still heavy with unspoken truths. Outside, the world speculated. Inside, a father's vigilance remained absolute. The following morning, Kensington Palace felt unusually heavy, as if the grand walls themselves carried the weight of the previous night's confrontation. Royal protocol, normally a comforting framework of order and tradition, now felt constricting, like a cage pressing against every movement and word. Every glance, every gesture was measured, every interaction carefully weighed. Camilla's son moved cautiously, acutely aware of William's presence even when unseen. The unspoken tension followed him like a shadow, reminding him that royal favor could shift in an instant. Privilege, he realized, was no shield against accountability, especially when it came to Charlotte, the youngest and most cherished of William's children. Prince William, though calm on the surface, carried the burden of responsibility with a quiet intensity. He could not allow even a hint of negligence near his daughter. Every decision was deliberate, every action a lesson in authority and protection. In his mind, the palace was not just a home. It was a stage where every move mattered, Every boundary had to be enforced, and every moment was observed. Staff whispered behind closed doors, noting the subtle shifts in dynamics. Loyalty, respect, and fear intertwined in a delicate dance, each step testing the household's cohesion. The ripple effect of the incident extended beyond words, beyond appearances. It challenged relationships, tested patience, and demanded vigilance. By evening, the palace was a theater of silent watchfulness. William remained near Charlotte, a protective presence, his unspoken warning lingering in the air. No one crosses a line when it comes to family. And in that tension-filled silence, the palace understood a fundamental truth. Some boundaries, once set, are absolute. By midday, the whispers had grown louder. Kensington Palace, usually a place of quiet dignity, felt the invisible press of rumor pressing against every gilded corridor. Even the most discreet staff could not prevent stories from slipping through unseen cracks, carried on hushed tones and anxious glances. Camilla's son, aware that the palace hierarchy now viewed him with suspicion, felt the weight of every misstep. Privilege offered him no protection here. The smallest action could provoke another confrontation. Every smile, every nod from the royal family, now carried unspoken judgment, and every corridor he walked seemed lined with invisible eyes. Prince William, ever composed, continued to place Charlotte's safety above all else. To the outside world, his restraint might appear measured, almost patient, but beneath that calm exterior burned an unwavering determination. Protocol mattered, yes, but family mattered more. Every subtle action he took, every watchful glance, reinforced the unyielding boundary that had been crossed. Outside the palace gates, the social media erupted with speculation. Tabloids published conjecture, and even casual observers debated the unseen drama. But within the walls of Kensington, the stakes were personal. This was not about headlines. It was about trust, protection, and authority. As night fell, the palace settled into a tense quiet, yet the echoes of day lingered. William's silent warning had been heard loud and clear. Crossing boundaries came with consequences, and the safety of his children was not negotiable. The following morning, the palace hummed with an undercurrent of unease. Every hallway, every ornate chamber, carried a memory of the previous night's confrontation. Camilla's son moved carefully, fully aware that he had crossed an invisible line, a line that Prince William had drawn and would not tolerate being ignored. William, calm yet vigilant, spent the day close to Charlotte. Every glance, every gesture reinforced the unspoken message. The royal children's safety was absolute. Authority and protection intertwined seamlessly in his actions. There was no room for negotiation, no tolerance for mistakes. In that household, respect was not optional. It was a rule enforced with quiet certainty. Even staff felt the weight of the tension. Conversations were measured, smiles cautious, and loyalty tested. Everyone sensed the strain between privilege and accountability, between social standing and familial protection. The palace was a world of delicate balance, where a single misstep could echo far beyond its walls. Camilla's son realized the consequences were far deeper than he had anticipated. It was not just William's authority he had tested. It was trust, respect, and the unspoken code that held the royal household together. And in that realization, the gravity of his actions settled over him like a shadow, unrelenting and absolute. By nightfall, William's vigilance had not waned. Charlotte, blissfully unaware of the storm around her, slept peacefully under her father's watchful eye. The palace, silent and imposing, bore witness to an unyielding truth. Some boundaries are sacred, and crossing them carries consequences that no privilege can erase. By the next day, the ripple of events could no longer be contained within Kensington Palace. Though the royal family maintained a careful silence, the incident began to capture the attention of the public and the press. Headlines hinted at discord, rumors circulated on social media, and speculation grew with every passing hour. Camilla's son felt the mounting pressure keenly. The palace's walls, once a place of routine and comfort, now seemed suffocating. Every interaction carried the weight of past mistakes. Every glance from William a silent reprimand. Privilege, he discovered, was no longer a shield. It could not protect him from the consequences of crossing lines drawn by love and authority. Prince William, ever composed, understood the delicate balance between privacy and duty. The world might speculate, but inside the palace, his focus remained unwavering. Protecting Charlotte was paramount, and his actions reflected a father's instinct that no protocol or public perception could override. Authority, once silent, had become firm, unyielding, and impossible to ignore. Staff and household members moved carefully, aware that any misstep could escalate tension further. The unspoken rules of respect, loyalty, and protection permeated every corner of the palace. And as evening fell, the world outside buzzed with conjecture, but inside, the palace bore witness to a quiet, steadfast truth. The safety and dignity of family would always come first, above privilege, rumor, or rank. The palace awoke to a day of measured calm, though the echoes of past events lingered in every corridor. Camilla's son, now fully aware of the boundaries he had crossed, moved with caution, understanding that respect and restraint were no longer optional. Privilege had limits, and William had made them clear. Prince William, composed yet resolute, remained vigilant over Charlotte. Every action, every gesture, communicated a singular message. Family protection comes first, always. In that household, authority was not an abstract rule. It was lived, enforced, and felt in every glance, every step. Charlotte's laughter, bright and carefree, became a symbol of what William safeguarded above all else. Even as rumors swirled outside the palace gates, inside, lessons were silently learned. The unspoken code of respect, the delicate dance of protocol, and the unwavering protection of loved ones had all been reaffirmed. Camilla's son understood the consequences, not through words, but through the steady presence of a father who would not waver. As night fell over Kensington, the palace returned to its quiet dignity. The incident, though significant, had reinforced a timeless truth. Boundaries set by love and responsibility are absolute. The world could speculate, tabloids could sensationalize, but within the walls of the royal family, authority and family always prevailed. And in that calm, measured order, the palace found its balance once more, a testament to the enduring power of protection, respect, and unwavering loyalty. Morning light filtered to the grand windows of Kensington Palace, casting a golden hue over halls steeped in tradition. Yet, beneath the elegance, tension lingered like a quiet storm. Camilla's son walked carefully, aware now that royal life carried invisible rules. Rules enforced not only by protocol, but by the unwavering expectations of those who safeguarded the family. Prince William, composed yet alert, understood that his role extended far beyond public appearances. Every gesture, every decision, shaped not only Charlotte's safety but the household's stability. Authority, he knew, was most powerful when exercised quietly, yet firmly. It was a delicate balance. Firmness without cruelty, protection without public spectacle. The palace staff, attuned to subtle shifts in behavior, watched as dynamics continued to adjust. Respect was being reestablished, boundaries reaffirmed, and the delicate hierarchy of trust carefully maintained. Privilege alone could not navigate these waters. Accountability was now as essential as any royal title. Outside the palace gates, whispers persisted. The public speculated, eager to uncover the private drama within the royal family. But within Kensington, the focus remained clear. The past incident served as a reminder. In a household bound by tradition, love and vigilance were inseparable. And William's unwavering commitment to his children made one truth undeniable. No one crosses a line when family is at stake. The palace moved in its usual rhythm, yet the air remained thick with the invisible lessons of recent days. Camilla's son, once confident in his place within the royal household, now walked with caution. Every glance, every gesture carried the weight of understanding. A silent acknowledgement of boundaries he could not afford to test again. Prince William, patient but firm, observed closely. He understood that authority was most powerful when paired with quiet guidance. Charlotte, blissfully unaware of the undercurrents around her, continued to play, her innocence untouched. And that innocence was precisely what William sought to protect, above protocol, above privilege, above rumor. The palace staff watched, learning through observation the subtle ways in which respect and loyalty were enforced. There were no harsh words, no dramatic confrontations, only measured actions that communicated volumes. Authority in its purest form does not shout. It protects, it guides, it sets boundaries that are unbreakable. Camilla's son, reflecting privately, began to understand the depth of the lesson. It was not merely a reprimand. It was a reminder of the invisible rules that govern the household, a lesson that privilege alone could not navigate. And in that quiet understanding, the palace found a fragile harmony once more, built on vigilance, respect, and the unyielding protection of family. Even as the palace returned to its polished routines, shadows of the incident lingered. Camilla's son could not escape the memory of that single fateful moment. The hand on Charlotte's arm, the unwavering stare from William, the silent warning that followed. It was a moment that will remain etched in his consciousness, a reminder of the delicate balance between privilege and accountability. Prince William, ever vigilant, reflected on the weight of his role. Protecting Charlotte was instinctive, yet the responsibility carried deeper implications. Every interaction within the palace, every whispered word, every careful glance, reminded him that even the smallest breach could have lasting effects. Authority, he knew, was not just about immediate action. It was about teaching respect, setting boundaries, and ensuring that lessons endure beyond a single confrontation. Within the royal household, the staff continued to navigate these shifts. Loyalty was measured not only by obedience, but by understanding the invisible codes that govern behavior. Camilla's son, once confident in his ability to move freely, now approached each moment with a cautious respect, learning the weight of consequences without further admonition. Outside the palace gates, the world speculated, but inside, a more profound truth took root. Boundaries had been drawn, lessons had been imparted, and a father's resolve had been made unmistakably clear. In the quiet halls of Kensington, one truth reigned above all. Family protection is absolute, and some lines, once crossed, leave marks that cannot be erased. The palace, grand and timeless, now felt charged with invisible tension. Camilla's son sensed it in every corridor, every glance, every hushed conversation. Loyalty, once assumed, was now questioned not openly, but in subtle ways that carried weight far heavier than words. The events surrounding Charlotte had shifted dynamics within the royal household, creating a quiet but undeniable divide. Prince William maintained his calm demeanor, but inside, his mind weighed every decision, every interaction. The role of a father in the royal family was never simple. Each action was magnified, scrutinized by those inside the palace and beyond its gates. Protecting his daughter meant enforcing boundaries, teaching lessons silently yet powerfully, and ensuring that respect for family remained absolute. The palace staff, ever observant, adapted quickly. They understood that privilege did not excuse misconduct, that loyalty could be tested, and that even a single breach of trust could ripple through the household. Camilla's son, realizing the gravity of the situation, felt the weight of scrutiny pressing down on him, a constant reminder that actions have consequences, even in a world built on status and inheritance. As the day drew to a close, William remained steadfast by Charlotte's side. His message, unspoken yet unmistakable, was clear to everyone. Loyalty, respect, and protection of family are not negotiable. In the silent corridors of Kensington, authority had spoken, and the lesson had been learned. As night fell over Kensington Palace, an uneasy calm settled across its grand halls. Camilla's son felt the oppressive weight of silence pressing in around him. The palace, once a place of familiar routines and predictable movements, now seemed like a stage where every misstep was magnified. He understood, perhaps for the first time, that the quiet was not peace. It was a reminder. Every shadow, every glance, carried the unspoken judgment of William's vigilance. Prince William, composed yet unyielding, maintained a presence that spoke louder than words. Charlotte, safe and unaware, continued her play, her laughter a stark contrast to the tense atmosphere. William's protection extended beyond immediate action. It was woven into the very fabric of the household, a constant force that reminded all who entered boundaries set by love are absolute. Staff moved with cautious respect, fully aware that the palace's rhythm had shifted. Privilege no longer guaranteed freedom of action. Discretion and accountability were now paramount. Camilla's son, walking carefully through familiar corridors, felt the consequences of his actions in every step, learning the depth of responsibility through profound weight of silence. In the quiet, the palace's message was unmistakable. Authority need not raise its voice to command respect. Protection, vigilance, and unspoken boundaries spoke louder than words, and William's unwavering dedication to his family ensured that the lesson would never be forgotten. The palace awoke to another day, yet the event of the past week hung over every room like an invisible veil. Camilla's son moved with caution, acutely aware that every action, every word, could ripple far beyond his intentions. What had seemed a minor misstep now carried consequences he could not ignore, teaching him that privilege alone could not shield him from accountability. Prince William, ever vigilant, continued to assert his authority subtly but firmly. His focus remained on Charlotte, ensuring her safety and reinforcing boundaries without raising alarms. To an observer, his actions might appear measured, almost calm, yet beneath the surface was an unyielding resolve. Protection of family was not negotiable, and every gesture, every watchful glance, served as a reminder of that truth. Within the palace, staff adjusted to the shifting dynamics. Loyalty was measured not just in obedience, but in understanding the unspoken codes that govern the household. Camilla's son learned that respect could not be commanded. It had to be earned, and failure to acknowledge boundaries brought consequences as inevitable as the passing of time. As night settled over Kensington, the palace bore witness to the quiet power of authority. Words were unnecessary. The presence of vigilance, the weight of expectation, and the steadfast protection of family conveyed a lesson louder than any proclamation. William's message was clear. Crossing the line would never go unnoticed, and some consequences are unavoidable. The following morning, Kensington Palace was quiet, yet the tension within its walls was palpable. Camilla's son moved with measured steps, fully aware that each action was under scrutiny. Privilege had lost its protective veil, replaced by the heavy weight of accountability. Every glance from Prince William reminded him that boundaries were not suggestions. They were laws of loyalty and respect, enforced with unwavering resolve. Prince William remained close to Charlotte, his presence both shield and warning. Every movement he made radiated authority, a reminder that the safety of his children was absolute. To those within the palace, it was clear. No misjudgment, no lapse in vigilance would be tolerated. His restraint was deliberate, yet the firmness behind it sent an unmistakable message to all who observed. Staff moved carefully through the halls, aware that any disruption could amplify the tension. Loyalty, discretion, and understanding of unspoken rules were now more critical than ever. Camilla's son, once confident and free in his actions, now understood the weight of missteps. The palace was a world of constant observation, where every choice had meaning and consequence. As the evening approached, the quiet intensity of the palace spoke volumes. Authority was not displayed through words, but through vigilance, presence, and unwavering commitment. William's message resonated clearly. Family comes first, boundaries are absolute, and crossing them carries consequences that even privilege cannot erase. Kensington Palace moved through the day under an invisible tension, each corridor and chamber carrying echoes of past confrontations. Camilla's son felt the weight of every look, every subtle gesture, knowing that he was constantly observed. Privilege no longer offered immunity. Every step he took reminded him of the boundaries he had crossed. Prince William's vigilance was unwavering. Every glance he cast, every subtle movement, reinforced a silent but powerful lesson. Charlotte's safety was paramount, and authority was enforced not with anger, but with presence. His calm composure amplified the seriousness of the situation, signaling that crossing the line once was already too much. Staff, attuned to every nuance, moved with measured care. Loyalty and respect were tested in quiet ways, revealing the depth of understanding required to navigate life within the royal household. Camilla's son began to internalize these lessons, recognizing that the palace demanded both discretion and accountability. Even as whispers outside the palace gates continued, inside, lessons were clear and profound. The combination of vigilance, patience, and unwavering protection created an environment where authority was absolute. William's message resonated silently yet unmistakably. Some lines, once crossed, cannot be ignored, and the consequences will be felt at every level of the household.